Be me, investigative journalist for past 12 years. Spent years documenting inequality and writing pieces that matter. Not some fluff entertainment reporter. I do real work that changes minds. Portfolio filled with award-nominated long-form pieces about institutional power imbalances. Editors love my work because I always deliver compelling narratives backed by research. Readers trust me because I never just repeat talking points. I dig into the actual numbers. Wake up one morning with what I think is a brilliant idea. Going to create the definitive data-driven piece that shuts down every bad faith argument once and for all. Not an opinion piece, not an essay, but pure statistical analysis. We'll compile every relevant data point from official sources into one comprehensive database. Employment statistics, healthcare outcomes, economic mobility, criminal justice, everything. Then visualize it all so clearly that even the most willfully ignorant person cannot deny reality. Spend weeks drafting my research methodology. This will be my magnum opus, the piece that cements my reputation as a serious journalist who does serious work. Apply for grant funding from 3 different journalism foundations. All 3 approve within a month because my proposal is that solid. Total funding of $87,000 to spend the next year doing nothing but compiling and analyzing data. Hire 2 research assistants fresh out of their statistics programs. Neither of them particularly ideological, just number crunchers who know how to clean data sets. Perfect for what I need. Set up spreadsheets and databases. Create protocols for citation and verification. Every single data point will link back to its primary source. Government databases, peer-reviewed academic studies, NGO reports, international statistics. Nothing from advocacy organizations that might have bias. Only official institutional sources. Start with employment because that feels like the most obvious place to find clear disparities. Pull wage data from Bureau of Labor Statistics, covering past 40 years. Notice immediately that raw wage gap numbers are significant when you compare all men to all women. Exactly what I expected. This confirms everything. But research assistants suggest we should break it down by occupation, hours worked, experience level, education. Annoying but fine. More granular data makes the analysis more bulletproof against criticism. Spend 2 weeks categorizing occupations, controlling for variables. Gap shrinks considerably when accounting for hours and experience. Still exists though, approximately 4 to 7% depending on sector. Definitely still evidence of discrimination, just more subtle than raw numbers suggested. Make detailed notes about how discrimination manifests in career guidance, promotion opportunities, workplace culture. All of this explains why women end up in lower-paying fields and work fewer hours. Structural discrimination is structural precisely because it is not obvious. Move on to workplace safety data. Figure, I will find evidence of women being pushed into dangerous roles without proper protection. Pull OSHA reports, workers' compensation claims, occupational fatality statistics. Start entering numbers into my database. Notice something odd immediately. Workplace fatalities are like 90-something% men. Check my data entry. Must have made an error. No error. Numbers are correct. 4,679 workplace fatalities in most recent year. 4,547 were men. That is 97.2%. Check previous years to see if this was an anomaly. 2019, 93% men. 2018, 92.5% men. 2017, 93.4% men. Every single year going back decades shows the same pattern. Logging, fishing, roofing, construction, trucking, agriculture, all the most dangerous occupations are 95 to 99% male. Sit there staring at my screen for 20 minutes, trying to process this. Obviously, this is because of gender segregation in employment. Women are excluded from these high-paying, dangerous jobs. But wait, are these jobs actually high-paying? Check median wages for most dangerous occupations. Fishers, $28K annually. Loggers, $42K annually. Roofers, $43K annually. Most of these dangerous jobs pay below or barely above national median wage. These are not prestigious positions that women are being excluded from. These are jobs that nobody wants, and men are doing them and dying doing them. Feel uncomfortable tightness in chest. This is not what I expected to find, but it is just one data point. Make note of it and move on. Cannot draw conclusions from single category of data. Decide to look at homelessness next. Assume I will find that women with children are primary homeless demographic. Pull HUD point in time count data. 2022 count. 582,462 total homeless individuals. Breakdown by gender. 70.1% male. 408,257 men experiencing homelessness versus 174,205 women. Check unsheltered specifically, since that is most dangerous. Unsheltered homelessness is 70.4% male. Men are vastly overrepresented in people literally sleeping on streets. Check chronic homelessness category. 78% male. Sit back in my chair. Stare at ceiling. Research assistant asks if I am okay. Tell her I am fine, just tired. Spend next several days gathering homeless services data. Want to see if this is explained by more services being available to women. Find that yes, there are more shelter beds designated for women and children. Also, more addiction recovery programs that accept women. Also, more job training programs targeted to women. Also, more housing assistance programs for women. Make note, systemic support structures are designed to help women exit homelessness, but not men. Feel that uncomfortable tightness again. Push it down. Keep working. Move on to education statistics. This one, I am confident about. Everyone knows about Title IX and how much work went into creating equal educational access. Pull. Enrollment data from National Center for Education Statistics. 1970s. Data shows clear discrimination against women in higher education. Women were 43% of college students in 1970. Obvious evidence of systematic exclusion. Track forward through decades watching the gap close. 1980. Roughly equal. 1990. 55% women. 2000. 56% women. 2010. 57% women. 2020. 59.5% women. Currently 59.5% of college students are women. 40.5% are men. Look at completion rates. Women complete bachelor degrees at significantly higher rates than men. Check graduate education. Women are now 58.5% of graduate students. Earned 62.7% of associate degrees. Earned 57.4% of bachelor degrees. Earned 62.1% of master degrees. Men only exceed women in doctoral degrees, and even that gap is closing. Check racial breakdowns. Among black students, women are 64% of enrollment. Among Hispanic students, women are 56% of enrollment. The gender gap in education is worse for minority men. Sit there reading these statistics over and over. When exactly did the gap flip? Why did I not know it had flipped? Why is everyone still talking about girls being discouraged from education when boys are now the ones falling behind? Check reading and writing scores in K-12. Girls outperform boys at every grade level in reading and writing. Boys are diagnosed with learning disabilities at much higher rates. Boys are suspended and expelled at much higher rates. Boys drop out at higher rates. Feel like I am looking at data from an alternate universe. This cannot be correct. Spend entire day checking and rechecking sources. All data comes from Department of Education. Completely official. Numbers are accurate. Tell myself that educational achievement is only one measure. Men still control most positions of power in society. That is what actually matters. But then, why are boys falling behind in school and nobody seems to care? Decide to take weekend off from research. Need to clear my head. Go to farmer market. Get coffee. Try not to think about the data. See homeless man sitting outside coffee shop. Probably mid-30s. Sleeping bag and backpack. Asking for change. Give him $5. He thanks me. Says he is trying to get enough for a shelter bed. Tell him there are free shelters. He laughs bitterly. Says men's shelters are always full, and waiting lists are months long. Says he was on waiting list for transitional housing for 8 months before giving up. Walk away feeling sick. I've never really thought about it before, but now that I am paying attention, every homeless person I see is male. Spend rest of weekend noticing things I somehow never noticed before. Construction workers fixing road are all men. Garbage collectors are all men. Guy cleaning out sewage drain is male. Delivery drivers are mostly men. Late-night convenience store workers are mostly men. All the jobs that are dangerous, or dirty, or unpleasant, or overnight. All men try to shake it off, go back to work Monday, decide to look at criminal justice data next, assume I will find clear evidence of discrimination against minorities, which I do, but decide to also control for gender, since I am being thorough. Pull sentencing data from Bureau of Justice statistics. Compare sentences by gender for identical crimes. Men receive sentences that are 63% longer than women for same crimes. Women are significantly more likely to avoid incarceration entirely when convicted. 42% of women convicted of crimes receive no jail time versus 28% of men. This disparity is larger than the racial disparity in sentencing. A woman and a man convicted of identical crime, woman will get lighter sentence or no sentence at all. Check violent crime statistics. Men are 78% of murder victims. Men are 71% of assault victims. Only crime, where women are majority of victims, is sexual assault and domestic violence. Check arrest rates. Men are 73% of arrests. Check incarceration. Men are 93% of prison population. Sit there staring at this number. 93%. Nearly entire prison system is men. Where are all the think pieces about mass incarceration being a men's issue? Check my own previous articles. I have written 17 articles about criminal justice reform. Not one of them mentioned that men are vastly disproportionately affected. Several of them specifically focused on how incarceration affects women and children. Feel hot shame creeping up my neck. Try to rationalize it. Men commit more crimes, so of course they are incarcerated more. But is that the full picture? Check prosecution rates. Men are more likely to be prosecuted when arrested. Men are less likely to receive plea bargains. Men receive harsher sentences. At every decision point in criminal justice system, men are treated more harshly. Check wrongful conviction data. Men are 89% of wrongfully convicted people later exonerated. Either men are committing vastly more crimes, or system is biased against men, or both. Probably both. But the bias piece is something I never acknowledged before. Feel like I am betraying something by even thinking this. Push forward. Decide to look at domestic violence data. This one I am sure about. Everyone knows domestic violence is a gendered issue. Pull FBI intimate partner homicide data. Women are 70% of intimate partner homicide victims. Okay, this confirms what I expected. But check non-fatal domestic violence. Pull National Crime Victimization Survey data. Approximately equal rates of intimate partner violence victimization between men and women. Wait, what? Read more carefully. Women experience intimate partner violence at rate of 16 per 1,000. Men experience intimate partner violence at rate of 9 per 1,000. So women experience it more but not vastly more. Roughly 60 to 40 split. Check other studies. CDC's National Intimate Partner and Sexual Violence Survey shows more complex picture. Non-reciprocal violence shows different patterns than reciprocal violence. Women experience more severe violence and more controlling behavior. Men experience violence but report it less and are taken less seriously when they do report. Look up domestic violence resources. Find that there are over 2,000 domestic violence shelters for women in the US. Find that there are fewer than 10 shelters specifically for male victims. Call several shelters asking about their policies. Pretend I am writing general article about domestic violence services. Most shelters say they only serve women and children. Some say they can provide hotel vouchers for men, but no direct shelter. One shelter director tells me, men are turned away because they assume male victims are actually abusers. Hang up phone and sit in silence. Imagine being man experiencing violence at home. Imagine finally getting courage to seek help. Imagine being turned away because of your gender. Imagine being told you are probably actually the abuser. Feel something cracking inside my chest. Spend next week diving into male victimization research. Find study after study showing that male victims face disbelief, mockery, and lack of services. Male victims are arrested when they call police for help because of mandatory arrest laws that assume men are perpetrators. Male victims have no shelter options. Male victims lose their children if they leave because courts favor mothers. Read testimony from male victims describing their experiences. One man was stabbed by his wife, called 9/11. Police arrived and arrested him because he was bigger than her. Another man tried to leave abusive relationship. Wife threatened to make false accusations. He stayed for 3 more years. Another man was denied restraining order against female partner because judge did not believe women could be dangerous. I feel sick to my stomach. How did I not know about this? Why is nobody talking about this? Check major news outlets. Search for articles about male domestic violence victims. Find a handful of articles, most of them dismissive or mocking. Find articles insisting that male victimization is a myth used to derail conversations about violence against women. Realize I have said similar things myself. Realize I have been part of the problem. Try to refocus on the data. Cannot let emotions cloud my analysis. Move on to suicide statistics. Pull data from CDC, an American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. Men die by suicide at 3.7 times the rate of women. 2020, 45,979. Suicide deaths in total. 37,144 were men. 8,835 were women. Men are 78.7% of all suicides. This is consistent across every demographic. White men, 69.8% of suicides. Middle-aged men have highest rates. Elderly men have even higher rates. Check methods. Men use more lethal means, which explains higher completion rate. But why are men attempting suicide in ways that are more likely to succeed? Read research on suicidal intent. Men's attempts demonstrate higher intent to die. Check suicide attempts versus completions. Women attempt suicide more often, but men complete more often. This is sometimes cited as evidence that women suffer more. But men are actually dying. 37,000 men dying every year. Where are the national awareness campaigns? Where is the urgency? Check mental health treatment rates. Women seek mental health treatment at much higher rates than men. Men are less likely to be diagnosed with depression and anxiety. Is this because men experience less mental illness, or because men do not seek help, or because symptoms present differently? Read research on male depression. Symptoms in men include anger, irritability, substance abuse, reckless behavior. Traditional depression screening tools are designed around how women typically experience depression. Male depression is underdiagnosed because it does not look like female depression. Men are told to tough it out, to man up, to stop complaining. Men have fewer close friendships and weaker social support systems. Men are isolated and suffering and dying, and nobody is treating this like the crisis it is. Have to stop working, go to bathroom, cry for 20 minutes. Research assistant knocks on door, asks if I am okay. Tell her I am fine. I am not fine. Spend next month compiling everything else. Child custody outcomes. Mothers receive primary custody in 68 to 88% of cases, depending on state. Fathers who seek custody are less likely to receive it even when they are equally or more qualified. Parental leave policies. Women have federal protections. Men have almost nothing. Reproductive rights. Women have access to abortion, adoption, safe haven laws. Men have no reproductive autonomy after conception. Men can be forced into parenthood against their will. Men must pay child support, even if they did not want the child. Boys in some states have been forced to pay child support for babies conceived when they were raped as minors. Read case law on this. Multiple cases where teenage boys were sexually assaulted by adult women. Women became pregnant. Boys were ordered to pay child support. Courts ruled that child support is for the child, not the mother. So father's victimization is irrelevant. Sit there reading this case law in absolute horror. A child was raped and then forced to financially support his rapist's baby. How is this legal? How is this not a national scandal? Check life expectancy data. Women live 5 to 6 years longer than men on average. Check cause of death. Men die more often from heart disease, cancer, accidents, suicide, homicide. Check healthcare spending. More healthcare spending on women's health, despite men dying younger. More research funding for diseases that affect women. Check workplace deaths again. The numbers haunt me. 92 to 93% of everyone who dies at work is male. Over 5,000 families every year, losing fathers, brothers, sons to workplace accidents. Check military deaths. 99+% male. Check murder victims. 77% male. Check life expectancy in different demographics. Black men have lowest life expectancy of any demographic group. Black men are dying young, and everyone talks about this as a race issue. which it is, but it is also a gender issue. Black men are dying younger than black women. The intersection of race and gender creates unique vulnerabilities for men of color, but I have never once written about it that way. Spend 3 days organizing all the data into comprehensive database. Create visualizations showing every disparity. Workplace deaths, 93% men. Homelessness, 70% men. Suicides, 79% men. Incarceration, 93% men. Education gap, widening against boys. Criminal sentencing, 63% longer for men. Child custody, 68 to 88% to mothers. Domestic violence services, 2,000 plus shelters for women, less than 10 for men. Life expectancy, men die 5 to 6 years younger. Sit back and look at what I have created. This is not what I set out to find. I wanted to create definitive proof of systematic advantages for men. Instead, I have created definitive proof of systematic disadvantages for men. I feel like my entire worldview is collapsing. Everything I have believed for my entire adult life, everything I have written, everything I have advocated for, was I wrong? No, cannot think like that. Women still face discrimination. That is real. Women are still underrepresented in positions of power. That is real. Women still deal with harassment and assault. That is real. But men are also suffering in ways I completely ignored. Men are dying more, being imprisoned more, killing themselves more, falling behind educationally. Both things are true simultaneously. Why did I think it had to be one or the other? Spend a week writing and rewriting my analysis, trying to be fair, trying to be honest, trying to acknowledge what the data shows without betraying everything I believe. This is the hardest thing I have ever written. Show draft to my research assistants. They both agree the data is accurate and the analysis is fair. One of them says, "This is the most important work I have ever done." The other says, "I am brave for following the data, even when it contradicted my hypothesis." Do not feel brave, feel terrified. Send draft to my editor with subject line, "We need to talk." Editor calls me 30 minutes later, can hear the tension in her voice. She read the whole thing. Long silence after I ask what she thinks. Finally she says, "You cannot publish this." Feel like I have been punched in stomach. Ask why not, she says. Because it will be weaponized by bad actors. Says it will be used to undermine women's movements. Says it will damage my credibility and the publication's credibility. Says our readers do not want to hear this. Tell her the data is accurate, everything is sourced. She says she believes me, but that is not the point. Says there is a difference between truth and responsible journalism. Says I need to consider the impact of publishing this. Says publishing this will help the wrong people. Get off phone feeling numb. Spend next few days thinking about what she said. She is not wrong that this data will be used by people with bad intentions. Can already imagine how certain communities will react to this. Will use it to claim that men are the real victims. Will use it to dismiss women's concerns. Will use it to argue against resources for women. But does that mean I should suppress accurate data? Does truth matter or does narrative matter? Check my email. Editor sent follow-up. Suggests I reframe the data to focus on how patriarchy harms everyone. Suggests I emphasize that these problems are caused by toxic masculinity and traditional gender roles. Suggests I make it clear that feminism is the solution to men's problems too. Read her suggestions and feel angry. This is exactly what I would have said a year ago. This is the standard framing. But is it true? Are boys falling behind in education because of toxic masculinity, or because schools are designed in ways that disadvantage boys? Are men dying in workplace accidents because of toxic masculinity, or because society views male lives as more disposable? Are men killing themselves because they will not ask for help, or because there is no help available for them? Are men losing custody of their children because of gender roles, or because courts explicitly discriminate against fathers? The patriarchy explanation feels convenient. Feels like a way to acknowledge men's suffering without actually taking it seriously. Feels like a way to make this fit into my existing framework, instead of letting it challenge my framework. Decide to send the piece to several colleagues whose opinions I trust. Get back range of responses. One colleague says this is incredibly important, and I must publish it. Another says, I am committing career suicide. Another says, I have been radicalized by men's rights activists somehow. Another says, the data is interesting, but I am interpreting it wrong. Another says I should be ashamed of myself for giving ammunition to misogynists. Sit there reading these responses feeling more alone than I have ever felt. Realize that I cannot win. If I publish, I will be accused of betraying women. If I do not publish, I will be suppressing data because it is politically inconvenient. Spend sleepless night staring at ceiling. Think about all the men in the statistics. The fathers who lost custody of their children. The boys falling behind in school. The men sleeping on the streets. The men dying at work. The men killing themselves. They are real people, not political abstractions. They deserve to have their suffering acknowledged. Decide, I have to publish. Send email to editor saying I am moving forward with publication. She calls immediately. Tells me to reconsider. Tells me she cannot run it. It goes against the publication's values. Tell her that accuracy and honesty should be the publication's values. She says, I am. Being naive about how this will be received, says she is trying to protect me. Tell her I am going to publish it somewhere, even if she will not run it. She sighs, says, if I do that, our working relationship is probably over. Hang up and immediately feel panic. This publication has been my platform for 8 years. These are my colleagues, my community, my people. If I do this, I will lose all of it. Spend entire day paralyzed with indecision. Finally decide to test the waters before going nuclear. Post thread on my social media summarizing some of the findings. Frame it carefully. Emphasize that women still face discrimination too. Include all the caveats and qualifications. Post it and wait. Responses start coming in within minutes. The first few are supportive. People thanking me for bringing attention to these issues. Then the tide shifts. People I have known for years are quote tweeting me with incredulity. How dare I center men when women are still oppressed? This is men's rights. Activist propaganda. I have betrayed the movement. I am doing the work of the patriarchy. I have always been suspicious. This confirms it. Someone digs up old tweet from 6 years ago where I said something mildly controversial. Someone else posts screenshot of my follows, claims I am following problematic accounts. I follow 2,400 people, including journalists of all perspectives, but that does not matter. Within hours, there are thousands of replies. The ratio of negative to positive is about 10 to 1. Watch in real time as my mentions become completely unusable. People calling me a traitor, a gender traitor specifically. People saying I am a disgrace to journalism. People saying I should be fired. People tagging my publication demanding I be fired. One person tweets that I deserve whatever happens to me. Dozens of people agree with that sentiment. See some accounts I respect trying to defend me. They immediately get dogpiled too. Watch them delete their tweets defending me. Get text from colleague, what the hell did you do? Get email from another colleague, disappointed in you. Get call from friend, are you okay? What is happening? Tell her, I just posted some data from a research project. She says, I must have known how this would be received. She says, I should delete it. Tell her, the data is accurate. She says, that is not the point. Everyone keeps saying that is not the point. When did accuracy stop being the point in journalism? Publication's PR department calls. They want me to delete the thread and post apology. Tell them I will not apologize for posting accurate data. They say I am creating a liability for the publication. They say I am damaging the brand. Hang up on them. Check social media again. It is getting worse. Now there are articles being written about me. Not about the data, about me, my motivations, my background, my previous work. Someone finds out I dated a man in college who was in a fraternity. This is cited as evidence of internalized misogyny. Someone else notes that I do not have children. This is cited as evidence that I do not understand women's issues. The absolute irony of people using sexist tropes to attack me for posting data. But I cannot point out the irony without making it worse. Editor calls again. She is furious. Why did I post that without clearing it with her? Tell her it is my personal social media. She says, I represent the publication, whether I like it or not. Says, I need to delete everything and go silent for a while. Says, if I do not, they will have to make a statement distancing themselves from me. Tell her to do what she needs to do. Hang up. 30 minutes later, publication posts statement. The views expressed by our contributors on personal social media do not reflect the institutional perspective of this publication. Basically throwing me under the bus. Expect to feel devastated, but instead feel liberated. Fuck it. I have nothing to lose now. Spend next week finishing the full article. Make it as rigorous and well-sourced as anything I have ever written. Include all the data, all the citations, all the context. Acknowledge areas where women still face discrimination. Acknowledge complexity and nuance. But do not shy away from the central findings. Men are disadvantaged in numerous, measurable ways that are systematically ignored. Find independent publication willing to run it. Smaller platform, less prestigious, but they care about accuracy over narrative. Article goes live on a Tuesday morning. Within hours, it is the most read piece on the site. Responses are predictably mixed. People who already agreed with the premise are celebrating. People who disagree are outraged. Very few people are actually engaging with the data itself. Everyone is focused on what it means politically. Get interview requests from podcasts I would never go on. Get harassment from people who see me as traitor. Get praise from people whose other views I find reprehensible. I feel like I am in no man's land, pun intended. Cannot align with the people attacking me because they refuse to engage with evidence. Cannot align with the people praising me because many of them are using this to dismiss women's issues entirely. Both sides are wrong. Or maybe both sides are partially right, and that is what nobody can accept. Get email from researcher who studies men's issues from public health perspective. He thanks me for the article. Says he has been trying to get mainstream publications to cover this data for years. Says he is usually dismissed as having an agenda. Says maybe it will mean more coming from me. Appreciate the sentiment, but doubt it will matter. I am being dismissed as having an agenda too. Get email from male reader. He thanks me for the article. Says he lost custody of his daughter, despite being the primary caregiver. Says his ex-wife was verbally and emotionally abusive. Says the court did not care. Gave custody to mother by default. Says he has not seen his daughter in 2 years. Says he has thought about suicide. Says my article made him feel less alone. Read this email 3 times. Start crying at my desk. This is why I had to publish. Not for political points. Not for my career. For the people suffering in silence. Get hundreds of similar emails over the next few weeks. Men who were abused and had nowhere to turn. Men who lost their children. Men who are homeless and cannot get help. Men who attempted suicide. Fathers, brothers, sons who died in workplace accidents. Their families thanking me for acknowledging their loss. Every single one of these emails breaks my heart. Every single one confirms that I made the right choice. Also, get emails from women. Some angry, some supportive. One woman writes that her brother killed himself. Says she has been trying to understand why. Says my article helped her see the pressures he was under. Another woman writes that she is a family court judge. Says she has watched the system discriminate against fathers for years. Says she tries to be fair, but the default assumptions are so strong. Says she is glad someone is finally talking about it. These emails matter more than the public response. Check my career prospects. Publication has not fired me, but has not assigned me any new pieces. I am effectively frozen out. Other outlets I have written for are not responding to pitches. Agent calls to say we should pause on the book proposal we were working on. Says publishers are spooked by the controversy. Says maybe in a year or 2 when things calm down. Realize I have been essentially blacklisted from mainstream progressive journalism. The community I spent 12 years building relationships in has turned on me. Invitations to conferences are quietly rescinded. Group chats I was part of go silent when I post. Friends stop returning calls. Feel profound sense of loss. These were my people. This was my tribe. I believed we were united by commitment to truth and justice. Turns out we were united by commitment to specific narrative. When I deviated from the narrative, I became the enemy. Try to pitch the research to academic journals. Several express interest. Peer review process takes months. Finally get acceptance from Public Health Journal. Paper is published with full methodology and dataset available for review. This version is much more dry and technical than the journalism piece, but it is now part of the academic record. But other researchers start citing it, some to critique, some to build on. This is how it is supposed to work. Evidence, peer review, replication, debate. Get invited to speak at university, not gender studies department, public health department. Give talk presenting the data. Audience is respectful. Asks good questions. Several students come up after to thank me. One young man says he is studying to be a social worker. Says he wants to work with male victims of domestic violence. says there are almost no resources or training programs for this, says my work, has inspired him to focus on this gap. Feel proud for first time in months. Maybe some good will come from this after all. Check the broader landscape. My article has been cited in several policy briefs. One state is reviewing its domestic violence shelter funding to include services for men. Another state is looking at its child custody default assumptions. These are small changes, but they are something. Also see my work being cited in places I wish it were not. People using it to argue that feminism is a hate movement. People using it to claim that women are privileged and men are oppressed. People using it to dismiss any conversation about women's issues. This is exactly what I feared. But I cannot control how people use publicly available data. All I can control is whether I am honest about what the data shows. Think about where I am 1 year after starting this research. Career in mainstream journalism basically over. Relationships destroyed. Reputation in tatters among people whose respect I valued, but also data is published and available. Researchers are building on it. Some small policy changes are happening. Real people have told me I helped them feel less alone. Was it worth it? Honestly, do not know. Some days, I think I should have just published the expected findings. I would have been so easy to cherry-pick data that confirmed my hypothesis. Nobody would have questioned it. Would have won awards, probably. Career would be thriving. Other days, I know I did the only thing I could do. The data was what it was. I could not unsee it. I could not pretend tens of thousands of men dying by suicide did not matter. I could not pretend boys falling behind in school did not matter. I could not pretend homeless men freezing to death did not matter. Their suffering was real, whether I acknowledged it or not. By acknowledging it, I lost my community, but gained my integrity. Sit at my desk, looking at all the data, one more time. 93% of workplace deaths. 70% of homeless population. 79% of suicides. 40% of college students. 93% of prisoners. These numbers represent millions of human beings. Sons, fathers, brothers, friends. People who deserve to have their suffering acknowledged regardless of their gender. People who deserve resources and support and compassion. Think about the man outside the coffee shop who could not get a shelter bed. Think about the reader who lost custody of his daughter. Think about the student who wants to be a social worker for male domestic violence victims. Think about all the men who died at work this year, whose deaths will barely be mentioned. Think about my own father, who worked dangerous jobs his whole life to support us. How did I spend my entire career advocating for equality while ignoring half the population? How did entire progressive movement become so focused on one type of injustice that we became blind to others? When did we decide that? Suffering only matters if it fits our political framework. Do not have answers to these questions, just have the data. And the data does not care about my politics, or my career, or my ideology. The data just is. Men are dying more, killing themselves more, being imprisoned more, falling behind educationally, losing their children, sleeping on streets, working the most dangerous jobs. These are facts. What we do with these facts is a choice. I chose to publish them, even though it cost me everything. Even now, knowing the cost, I would make the same choice. Because journalism is supposed to be about truth, and the truth is that I was wrong about a lot of things. The truth is that gender inequality cuts both ways. The truth is that men are suffering in ways that are systematically ignored. The truth is that I spent years contributing to that ignorance. The truth is uncomfortable and complicated and does not fit into neat political narratives. But it is still the truth, and that has to matter. It has to.